attending our Google Tag Manager webinar. I'd like to give a very special thanks to all of you who have managed to attend this webinar in the very early morning, like our Australian audience, and to you that are watching us live during your lunch break, like the audience from California, United States. It's our pleasure to have this webinar with all of you guys, helping you to understand how GTM can make your implementation and your life easier. Hey, do not forget our Twitter hashtag, which is EasyLifeGTM. Let's tweet about it. Before we start this webinar, I would like you to note a few things. Your mics need to be muted. Not only muted in GoToWebinar tool, but please also do it through your computer settings. Also make sure that you can listen to us properly and that you can view our screen being shared with you. Keep in mind that we'll be sharing this webinar recording, slides, and links with all of you. We'll be soon sending you an email with all the instructions of where to get them from. We'll have a question and answer session by the end of this webinar. So, don't be shy. Please let us know through the chat whenever you have a question or a query. After we run this online meeting, you are going to be routed to our webinar survey. Please, don't miss answering to it. It's extremely important for us to have this feedback from all of you so that we can keep improving our next webinars and next interactions with you. Now, we are almost there. First, let me introduce myself, your hostess, and all our speakers to you. I'm Carolina, and I take care of inbound marketing efforts here at Tatwik. Nirjani Shah and Bhumika Joshi are our implementation specialists. They'll be providing you the best technical content that will allow you to make your life really easier after taking part of this webinar. To make our lives even easier, I suggest we start calling them by their last names, Shah and Joshi. We will also be having Rahul Ramchandani as one of our speakers. He's the head of Internet Marketing at Airtel Online, and today he's here to talk about his perspective as one of our clients after having GTM implemented in all of his domains. But what are we going to show you throughout this webinar that will really allow you to make your life easier? We are going to start giving you a basic overview of Google Tag Manager. Then, once you understand what this tool is all about, we are going to demonstrate to you how to have your tags implemented via GTM with the maximum of ease. After that, we are going to skip to the part that will introduce you a way to have the best interaction and communication with your clients. We hope this will enable you to understand exactly what their needs are. At last, but not at least at all, we are going to have a word with Rahul, who will be able to provide his perspective as a customer after having GTM implemented in all his domains. And the last part of this webinar will be the key question and answers round. So, let's get started. And for that, I'd like to ask Joshi, one of our implementation specialists, to join us. Hi Joshi, thank you very much for being here, sharing your experience with us. Can you please explain to all of us what is GTM?
Thank you so much, Carol. I'll be glad to talk about Google Tag Manager today. But before moving on to what is Google Tag Manager, let me tell you what GTM is not. I need to clarify some of the myths people have about GTM. I have heard people saying that GTM is a premium version of Google Analytics, and also it gives you the performance report and ROI of your website. Well, this is incorrect understanding. Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics are actually two different tools. They both are used for different objectives. So, GTM is an improvised process of implementing JavaScript to collect data from your website, while GA is used for analyzing the data collected via GTM. So, we can implement the tags using GTM, and we can get the performance report using Google Analytics.
Okay. Then, can you please explain us what it really is?
Yes, Carol, let me tell you what GTM actually is. GTM is a free and easy tool to implement different JavaScripts from one interface. These scripts will help to track important data from our website. It does not require any IT team involvement for managing these tags. So if I sum up all, we manage our scripts ourselves with an easy to use interface rather than forcing our IT team to write or rewrite site codes again and again.
Oh, thank you, Joshi. Now that we've got more familiar with GTM, can you explain us the importance of a tag management platform such as Google Tag Manager?
So Carol, let me tell you the problem we had before GTM implementation. As we can see on the screen, this is a simple web page. Initially, for collecting data, we had to place all the JavaScripts on our web pages. So we have various scripts placed on our website. For example, web analytics, ad networks, retargeting, audience research, and many more. Every time for any requirement, we need to place a script in the web pages, and this is a huge time-consuming process. Also, it may lead to slow down your website.
So, as we can understand, Google Tag Manager allows us to implement our tags, avoiding many undesirable situations. Is it correct?
Yes, definitely. It avoids many awkward situations like, firstly, I would say scripts and tags never die. Once you add a script in your web page, it will be there on your website for years and years, and nobody removes it even if you are not using it anymore. So they are like taxes which are there with us lifelong. This problem will be solved via GTM, as by only one click we can disable the JavaScript to fire on the website. Secondly, what we do if we have a business requirement to track a new campaign running on the website, we will have to wait for the next release of our website, which may be after a month or two. But via GTM, we can track the new features in the next few hours. Thirdly, as I said, we add more and more scripts in the web pages. It will slow down your website. But in GTM, we have rules which will help tags to fire only on the specific pages. Lastly, when we have a business requirement for tracking data, we need to pass the requirement to the IT team. There are many back and forths of email communication which will be a huge problem. Also, it's a time-consuming process which will require to wait for the implementation to be done. If we have GTM implemented on our website, the involvement of IT team is not required. We can manage and deploy the tags on our own.
Okay, thank you, Joshi. But beyond explaining some of its benefits, can you explain that what's the real difference between the normal implementation and the implementation via Google Tag Manager?
Sure, Carol. So you can see on the screen, we have the normal implementation. In the normal implementation, what we do is we place all the scripts in our web pages. This is a time-consuming process and may lead to errors in terms of functionality, website loading, etc. But with Google Tag Manager, we have an interface, or we can say the GTM container, where all the scripts are implemented and managed. You only have to place one single code in your web pages and you are done. So all your tags are at one place and are managed from a single interface.
Thank you, Joshi. So, before going online on GTM's platform, can you please introduce the GTM elements to us? This way, we'll be aware of their names and functionalities.
Let's check out some basic elements of Google Tag Manager. Here we are using an analogy to explain GTM in a better way. So let's start with a container. Container concentrates all your tags at the same place. That means all the scripts are managed from a single interface. Just imagine your car as a container which concentrates many people. In the same way, we have many scripts firing on our website, but all of them are managed from a single interface via GTM. As an implementation specialist, for me it's like awesome. Managing every single script firing on our website from one single place is like unbelievable. Okay, let's move to the tags now. Tags are snippets of codes which are occupied by different Java scripts. Like I mentioned earlier, web analytics scripts, ad network scripts, retargeting scripts, etc. Imagine seats of your car as a tag, and people occupying the seats are different Java scripts. Let's move on to the rules now. You have a car, you have people with you, but you have to reach a specific location. So you would need the steering to take you to the specific location. In the same way, you have a rule in GTM which will help your tag to fire at some specific page. But how will steering know where to go? For that, we have the navigation system which will guide you to reach the location. In the similar manner, we have macros in GTM which will help rules to get the information about where to fire the tag. All the basic elements here are very easy to use, and it makes our life easier for implementation of various scripts in our website. I hope after this webinar people will start using GTM with having all the key elements clear in their minds.
Okay, Joshi, thank you very much. And now that we know what's GTM, its basic features, benefits, and basic elements, can you show us an example of how to get its implementation done? Because, you know, it's always good to get the visual example of something that we've just learned.
Sure, Carol, I'll take you all to the first example, which is about Google Analytics implementation. Let's move to the GTM interface. But before starting this example, let me tell you some problems the business team have after having Google Analytics implemented on their website. They can see some clumsy and unstructured URLs in the Google Analytics reports. They are not only unhappy with these URLs, but also unable to understand which page this URL indicates. Let me show you this example using Google Tag Manager. So we are here in the GTM interface. I already have an account, so you can see me logged in. Okay, so this is my account name, that is GTM Overview. I'm going in, you can see the containers like GTM Example 1 and GTM Example 2. Let's move inside the container. So for the new implementation, we need to create a new tag. Let's create a new tag. I am naming this tag as Google Analytics. I'll select the tag type as custom HTML tag. You can see an HTML box which will allow you to insert the JavaScript which you want to fire on your website. So let's have the Google Analytics code snippet, and let's paste it in the HTML box. So to make this tag fire on my website, I need to add a rule to fire this tag. So let me add the rule. If I want to fire this tag on all the pages, I can use the all page rule, which is an inbuilt rule of GTM, but I want to fire this tag only on the category pages. So I'll create a new rule and name it as category page. These are the macros which help us to build the rule for the tags. So I'll be using the URL macro to create a rule. I'm assigning a value to the macro as catalog search because I have this value in the URL of my website. So now this is a rule which will help the tag to fire only on the category pages. Let's save this rule. Now we have the rule align with the tag we have implemented. Let's save this tag. We need to create a version whenever we need to implement the tag we have built it. So let's create a version. We will preview and check the implementation we have done. Let's move on to the website and see if the implementation works. So here you can see we have the Google Tag Manager debugger, and also you can see that we have the Google Analytics tags which is firing on the Tag Manager load. So let me check in the Google Analytics real-time dashboard what kind of URL or what kind of active pages I can see. So let's move into the Google Analytics real-time dashboard. Oh, what we can see is here is the URL of the catalog search, that is the category page of the website. So this is so unstructured. Do we get any idea that this is a category page URL? No, not at all. So to get rid of this problem, we will implement Google Analytics code by using a friendly page name as an argument. So let's move back to the Google Tag Manager dashboard. We have to move to the tag we have already created. To have a friendly page name for any URL, you have to add an argument with the TrackPageView function. So I am naming the argument as category page. I will again save the tag. Create the version of the tag. Now, to check the implementation again, we have to preview our container. Let's preview and debug. Let's go to the website and check our implementation. Oh, so you can see we have the Google Analytics tag firing on the Tag Manager load. So before in the Google Analytics dashboard, we were able to see the URL which was there on the browser, but let's check if we are able to see the friendly page name which we have implemented via Google Tag Manager. So I am going back to the Google Analytics real-time dashboard. Oh, so we can see that we have the friendly page name instead of having a clumsy URL. I think that's great. So this was a simple demonstration of implementing Google Analytics with friendly page name via GTM. I hope this audience has liked it. Anyone in the audience have any question regarding the implementation via GTM? Please feel free to write it in the chat. We would be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshi. This was a very good example. I'm pretty sure that the audience also enjoyed it. Joshi, is the whole process as simple as you showed us? We just need to log into GTM platform and create our tags. Where does the process first start?
So Carol, it's a very easy and powerful tool. But as we all know, power comes with responsibility. This responsibility pushed us to devise a standardized process for GTM implementation. We have Shah from our team who will help us to go through the work approach which we have adopted for GTM implementation. So Shah, can you please let us know why this standard approach has been devised and how does it flow?
I appreciate you. Thanks, Josie. I appreciate you having me here. I'm sure that you all are now having basic understanding of Google Tag Manager. After the example which Joshi has shown a few minutes back, hope you are aware of basic usage and functionalities of Google Tag Manager. I'm glad Joshi asked me this question for me to provide more highlights on the work approach which we follow. Before talking about the need of establishing this approach, let's also see why we are discussing it in the webinar of Google Tag Manager. Well, we have been working with Google Tag Manager since long for different clients who are having complex implementations on their websites. Some situations which we faced has helped us to recognize the need to have standardized approach for using GTM. The problem that we found is lack of standardized methods, or we can say procedures, along with the documentation for easier communication between developer and analyst. We feel both are important stakeholders in the implementation process. But also there is no standard platform where they can go to discuss the requirements of customization, and that creates more confusion for analyst as well as for the developer, because analyst is someone who would like to get data about different elements of the website, whereas developer is someone who always wants to know more about which all elements the requests are, and that is in a very specific manner. As a consequence, with the lack of documentation and standard process, for a web analyst, there did not exist any single place where he could look out for the standard documentation. He has no idea about what is the status of the request, which custom elements was introduced 6 months ago, what all kind of trackings that has been done till the date, and what are the values being passed in the Google Analytics. There can be many such questions an analyst would like to know. We were trying to avoid this scenario in the post, and we come up with the process with simplified manner to create a standardized platform for easier communication between the stakeholders. Carol, I think we feel that many organizations is facing such problems of coordination between different stakeholders, and we got a wonderful opportunity for us to come up with this approach.
So Shah, can you explain us the whole process of this work approach?
Sure, Carol. It is a 3-step simple process to improve the implementation of Google Analytics using Google Tag Manager. You all can see an arrow on your screen having 3 boxes inside it. The arrow shows the flow and the boxes show the 3 different phases. This has been designed to accomplish the customization request. In the very first phase, there is a form where a developer is just a recipient of the information and analyst is a sender of the information. The form helps us to draft this information in the most structured manner. Let me take you to the form so that I can explain about which form I am discussing and how it looks. So, the standard process is an analyst will open the form and try to fill up the informations, and this is with the assumption that Google Tag Manager is implemented. I hope you all are able to see the form on your screens. As an analyst would start to fill this form and provide the informations like domain name, description about the element which an analyst wants to track, what is the purpose of tracking for this particular element, the image of element to be tracked, and all the URLs for which the tags needs to be fired. Now, the real purpose is that when the requirement originates from an analyst, he knows under which condition data is getting collected, and also the impact of this data collection method on the reporting part. So after filling up this detail, when he clicks on the done button, he's done with everything from his part. Now everything moves to the implementation part, and This is how an analyst is free from other worries. Let me go back to the presentation and explain you the second phase. Once an analyst submits the request, which is eventually collected at the back end, the developer can review it, provide feedbacks on it, and suggestions, and clarify each and every request if needed. Once done with that, developer can start working on the request which has been collected. As you can see in the image, it is very easy for all the stakeholders to check the status of different requests. Because for a developer and for a business analyst, it is very important to know what are all the requests which has been collected and what is the status of that request. This entire procedure is very intuitive and easy, as we are having common ground to communicate for both of them. In the third phase, based on the information provided, text can be generated using JavaScript and jQuery. With this accurate information for each and every request, actionable and valuable data can be passed to the Google Analytics using Google Tag Manager, and that is without any errors. Once done with the code and tags, they can be published on the live site after the testing. This is how the whole work approach is very smooth and easy, very fast, effective, and also it reduces the time which is wasted for the email chains between a developer and analyst.
Sean, would you be able to give us an example as if the process was taking place?
Yeah, sure, Carol. So let me go back to the form once again so that I can explain you the example. This is the same form which I have shown you earlier. Now assume that I am a business analyst and I am having this website. This is an e-commerce store, and as a business analyst, I want to track the number of clicks which has been made on all the add to cart buttons. This is how I am knowing that how many persons are interested in my products. So an analyst would use this form, provide all the information related to this button, and this is how he has done with his part. So let me do it for you so that you can have better understanding. In the domain name field, I am providing the name of the domain. As an element description, I am providing add to cart button, and in the purpose of tracking, I am providing the details about why I need this customization. So I will provide informations like track the number of clicks on the add to cart button. And for the better clarity, I am providing the image of this button so that implementation specialist will have better idea about which button I am talking. And at last, I will provide the URL which is of a category page in the last field so that we can generate different rules based on this URL. And finally, I am clicking on the done button. Once clicking on the button, I am done with my work. Now at the back end, An implementation specialist will be receiving all the requests made from the business analyst. Let's assume that everything is getting cleared between implementation specialist and a developer and analyst. They have provided the feedback and clarifications, and now implementation specialist is started working on the implementation process. So in the Google Tag Manager, let me create one tag to have this customization done. I am selecting GTM Overview account and GTM Example 1 as a container. I am creating one tag. I am clicking on New Tag button and providing the name Add to Cart Customization. You should always provide an appropriate tag name so that in future you can have better idea about the tagging request you have made. I am selecting custom HTML tag and copying the script which I have created for this tag. To track the clicks on the button, I am providing GAQ push call function using track event, where I am passing add to cart as event category and button click as event action. I want to fire this tag on category page. So let's add a rule for the category page. As Joshi has created this rule earlier, I am using the same rule once again. Saving my rule. I am saving my tag. And creating a version. Now let's see whether this tag is getting fired on my page or not. So in the preview and debug mode, I am testing the same URL and yes, you can see that add to cart customization tag is getting fired on this page. But is this done? No. How to see the data in Google Analytics? So let's check what is going there in Google Analytics using this customization. In my account, I can see that in events section, there is another section named top events. Oh, I can see my add to cart event category here, where I have tracked almost 5 events of clicking. In this category, there is one more action named button click. You know that we have passed this information using the customization via tag. So we can see these details here. So this is how we can combine the request from analyst and the implementation from developer using this simple approach.
Thank you very much for this example. Now that we know why this process is needed and we know how to have the same implemented, can you please list to us some of the benefits that we can notice after its implementation?
Definitely, Carol. We have some benefits derived from this process. The first benefit we have is we can always have all the tracking requests congregated at a single place. So at any point of time, if a developer or a business analyst wants to check how many requests are there and what are the status, they can go to the dashboard at any time and they can check for the request. The another benefit is that there is a huge decrease in turnaround time for the request of tracking. For example, there is no need to wait for the release. Once done with the coding, tags can be implemented and all the changes will get affected immediately on the pages. So why to wait for the release processes and get stuck in that things? We can simplify the process and done the work immediately. The next point is when new features go live, the tagging doesn't depend on the IT team. The only thing analyst has to do is to fill the form and submit it. This is all from his part. After that, the developer would convert this request into tags and can publish it. By this way, there is a huge amount of time saving from gathering the business requirements and context around the requirements. Carol, this is all about the work approach. We hope you all follow this approach at your organization and eventually reduce the time and efforts for both developer and analyst. If you have any questions regarding this work approach, please feel free to ask the questions in the chat and we would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Shah. So, till now, we were able to get more familiar with GTM basic features, how to implement it, and how to establish a simplified work approach between business analysts and developers. Now, we are going to have the opportunity to understand the implementation process from one of our customers' side. And for that, I'd like to invite Rahul Ramchandani for a talk about his experience. Rahul is the head of Internet Marketing at Airtel Online. Airtel Online is one of the largest Indian websites in terms of pages, revenue, and traffic. So Rahul, first, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today. We believe that your presence here will allow us to get an honest feedback regarding GTM implementation process from a customer who had it implemented in his multiple domains. So, Google Analytics had already been implemented in your domains, right? Where did the need to change it come from?
Hi, Carol. At the onset, I must just say that it is absolutely fantastic being here. So thanks a lot for inviting me. So just to answer your question now, like you said, Airtel is one of the largest websites in India. In terms of number of pages, they have more than 3,000 of them. And in terms of traffic, it attracts more than 20 million visits in a month. In terms of revenues too, we are the largest non-travel e-commerce website in the country. So it is a large system of websites across various domains. It is a complex ecosystem involving different domains and an even more complicated URL structure. So you're right that when you say that we had a Google Analytics already implemented on the website. However, we figured that the metrics, the reporting that we were getting from that implementation wasn't entirely correct. And that's why we reached out to Tatvik to help us clean our Google Analytics account, restructure it if required. They in turn told us about GTM, which we found quite impressive and decided to go ahead with it. So we reached out to Tatvik to help us revamp our GTM account as well as implement GTM.
Okay, Rahul. So when Tatvik has introduced your Google Tag Manager to you, what was your first impression of this tool? What was the advantages that you have identified?
Oh, we thought it was a solution to all our tracking and measurement problems. It was like, if I could say, a marketer's delight. Given the size of the brand and our marketing budget, at any moment we have more than a dozen online campaigns going on. The number of conversion codes, remarketing codes, etc. on the website are quite staggering at any point in time. Besides, there's a need to keep the implementation of these codes very agile. The ability to add, modify, remove at the speed of the marketing campaigns. All this was simply unimaginable before. Changes took a lot of time and required a lot of follow-up with multiple agencies and stakeholders. This entire process now becomes a piece of cake with GTM. It is much easier to keep the website clean and updated with only a few required codes. And I think this is a shining example of the power of GTM.
Okay. And have you found GTM's implementation process easy? Were there any difficulties faced during the same process?
There were, I have to say there were a few difficulties to begin with, but that was largely because we have a website that is spread across multiple domains and each are handled by different agencies. So I think these difficulties could be attributed more to project management and the coordination between agencies and not to the technology, which I think is quite brilliant.
Okay. And how was your IT team involved doing GTM implementation? And after the implementation, how do they feel? What do they need to do?
So our IT team only had to implement the GTM code blocks for different domains. Once they had done that, almost everything else was managed by you guys at Upwick. So after its implementation, the IT team essentially had to just provide support to the Upwick team in terms of providing access, documents, and permissions. The show has been run by the Upwick team. So that's, I think, again, a very good example of the power of GTM.
Okay. And Rahul, can you please tell us if it was cost effective for you?
Well, not just was it cost effective, it also saved us a lot of time. So implementation of codes now is a much more agile process and quite an efficient one. So yes, definitely.
Okay. And for last, Rahul, would you recommend GTM implementation to other companies? And what do you think that the other companies can expect from this tool?
Well, in today's age, every aspiring digital business needs to have a tag manager solution implemented. There are many tag manager solutions available in the market, quite a few of which are also paid. GTM happens to be a world-class product developed by Google and is offered for free. I think every online business must employ it to improve the measurement and tracking of their website.
Okay, Rahul, I'd like to thank you very much one more time for your presence in this webinar. You provided us a very valuable feedback. We hope it helped our audience to understand our customers' point of view regarding GTM's implementation process.
Thank you so much, Carol. It was a pleasure being here.
Okay. Now we are moving to our last session, which is the question and answers round. For this session, we've selected only 5 questions. But I'd like to highlight to you that all the questions that we have received from you will be addressed by our team, either by email or blog post, okay? So, the first question that we selected is about GTM as a service. As an agency, can I use GTM for my clients? How can I do it? And to answer this query, I'd like to invite Joshi to join us one more time.
So Carol, your question was, as an agency, can you use GTM for your clients, and how can you do that? So I would like to say, yes, definitely, GTM can be used by different agencies. I understand that many agencies face major challenges like managing multiple clients and monitoring, tracking progress of their measurement plans from a single location, and also sharing the progress by way of granting different user levels of permission to the clients. In fact, GTM has a multi-account feature, so as an agency, you can create different accounts for different clients. Thus, you can determine appropriate workflow and user level permissions based on clients to manage their tags efficiently. We also recommend that as an end client, you should create their own account and then grant access to their agencies using the user permission features provided by Google Tag Manager.
Okay, thank you, Joshi. The second question is about tag management. So, Shah, this IT guy is asking how can we ensure that his site won't break when he allows marketers to take control of analytics tags. Can you please answer this one, please?
I think no, there is no need to worry about the control about the ensure that it will break your site, because there are 2 or 3 checkpoints Google has provided. That GTM has a tag preview mode with automatic error checking that prevents publications if tags aren't properly deployed on the website. At another point, there is a feature like version history, which is an error recovery feature to make sure that no faulty codes are placed on the website, and if you are creating a version and there is something getting wrong, you can always come back to the previous version and update the latest changes.
Okay.
Moreover, user level let me complete it, Kyle. Moreover, user level permissions make it a robust application for the tag deployment. So, to answer this question, I will say no need to worry at all for this.
Okay, thank you, Shah. The third query wonders if it's possible to also be including non-Google tags in Google Tag Manager. So, Joshi, can you please address this query?
Oh, definitely, Carol. This is a very important and best feature we have in Google Tag Manager. One of the best feature, I can say. You can add custom code for any JavaScript tag you're using. That means a Google tag or a non-Google tag. But before doing that, please before doing that, using that checkout that Google Tag Manager user policy which Google Tag Manager is providing, and then you will be able to easily implement the non-Google tags as well with the Google tags we have.
Okay, thank you once again, Joshi. The next question is about privacy. This is a very important point. Shah, can you explain us what does Google do with the data collected via GTM?
Agree with you, Carol. This is definitely a very good question. Actually, GTM is a solution for marketers to manage website tags from the interface. I may say from the one interface. The Tag Manager tool itself is a cookie-less domain and does not collect any PII. It is personally identifiable information. So it only instructs other tags to fire, and these tags may collect data. This data is accessed by GTM. So Google is always ready for it. GTM does not collect data, but yes, you can use GTM to collect data in Google Analytics.
Okay, thank you, Shah. And the last question of this session wonders if GTM works on other platforms like mobiles. Can you tell us about it, please, Joshi?
Yes, Google Tag Manager can also be used on mobile sites as well. One thing I want to highlight here is you can manage your mobile tags and your standard website tags from the same Google Tag Manager account. So this is a very great feature we have in Google Tag Manager to manage both the tags, mobile tags, as well as the standard website tags from the same Google Tag Manager account. So yes, it definitely works on mobile platforms as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Joshi. So, as I said previously, these were the 5 questions that we've selected for this question and answers round. The other questions that we were not able to address in this webinar, we'll be glad to be addressing in the next days, either by email or blog post. So, Thank you very much to all of you once again. We hope that we could help you to get more familiar with GTM Google Tag Manager and that you are going to have a much easier life now. Please don't forget to give us your honest feedback through this webinar survey. And we hope to see you all very soon in our future webinars and interactions.